Emphasis Day. It's a worldwide Seventh-day Adventist initiative, and old are facing a lot of problems. Hidden wounds, sadness, untold stories pushes many to do some other things. Many smiles, many closed doors, many hide behind, I am fine. When you ask them, they say, I am fine, but within them, they are suffering. There are women, children, and adults who are going through a lot. And when we come to church, you see them smiling. But within them, they are hurting. And Jesus showed compassion to so many. When we look at the book of Mark, chapter 10, remember when the children came to Jesus, many were saying they should leave the children to go. But Jesus took them in his arms and he blessed them. And Jesus is always a compassionate. So many instances he showed compassion to people. So we are talking about how to help those who are traumatized, who are sad, who are hurting. It could be somebody seated here. How do we recognize? Now, as we continue, I want to ask us a question. I want to make it a practical. They say I have just 10 minutes, so I don't want to take much time. I always like keeping to time. When life becomes difficult, which of these statements is easy to believe? When life becomes so difficult, I want us to answer. When life becomes so difficult, which of these statements is easy to believe? God has forgotten me, God is punishing me, God is preparing me, or God is working with me? Can we respond, please? When life becomes so difficult, which of these statements is easy to believe? God has forgotten me, God is punishing me, God is preparing me, or God is working with me? Can we say something? Mrs. Ben, you are smiling. Let me hear you say something. Which of the statements is it?
The easier part would be, God has forgotten me. But then, that's the first default that we think about. But I think by God's grace, He blesses the less than mustard seed faith maybe we have, and then we realize God is working in me. Because when we turn to God and say, Lord, have you forgotten me in my situation right now? Then He interacts with us, and then by His Holy Spirit, He will tell us that I've not left you. So the next thought would be, are you working in me?
Okay. Thank you so much. Can somebody? Yes.
Yeah, sometimes we think that God is punishing me. I think that's what the devil is always put in our minds, that, you're going through something, it's God punishing you because you've done something wrong. Sometimes we tend to think, what did I do wrong? And then you think, because I didn't do this right, that's why God is punishing me. That's why I'm going through this.
Thank you. Any other one? Can we hear a man say something? Any? Which of the statements is easier to believe? Pastor, let's hear you. We're talking about practical.
I think I missed the statement, but I think the statement that can...
Life becomes so difficult.
Yes.
Which of these statements is easier to believe? God has forgotten me, God is punishing me, God is preparing me, or God is working with me?
I think at different stages of the journey, we sometimes wonder which one is true. But for the child of God, the statement should be that God is walking with me. I was preaching last evening on a Vesper about the story of Job. And I was making reference, Job declared in the midst of all that was happening, that I know my Redeemer lives. And I emphasize that Job looked forward with that confidence. And that is what we should be looking forward to during these difficult periods of our lives, that it's going to get better with God.
Thank you, Pastor. There's always a chorus we always sing over there, where coming from. With Jesus in the vessel, you'll always be smiling at the storm. All right? So God has never, and He will never forget anybody going through any traumatic behavior, any traumatic experience. God is always working on us. So we have different kinds of abuses: the physical, the emotional, the psychological, the financial, and the sexual, spiritual abuse. We have them all. And the problem is that, why is this abuse so painful? It is so painful because it is an invasion of another person's internal and social world. It can ransack their sense of self, their relationship, health, mental and wellness, and spiritual well-being. So it is so painful. And the most important thing here is that when someone is under this problem, influence, you hardly notice it, because the abuser or the person who is really causing the abuse will tell the person, never say it. If you say it out, you will be punished. And because that person might be an influential person, you would want not to say it. That person could be an elder in the church, he could be a pastor, a very influential person even in the church. And so maybe it's the wife that is going through the abuse, it could be the husband. But another question I want to ask, so I always go with questions so that it will be interactive, like I said. Is it only the women the female that are always on the receiving side of this abuse? Do men too go through abuses? Or is only the women, only the female?
Men are also abused, but one of the things that I have discovered is that men are, because of their ego, men are afraid to come forward and talk about abuse. Because the reality is, the way, most times when we hear about abuse, we think it's about a woman. But men are abused. And there are different ways that they are abused. But because let's be realistic. If I go to the Gardaí and I say to them that my wife is abusing me, I may be laughed at in the Gardaí station. Because they were like, you're a man, how is that even possible? But the reality is, it happens. And so what society needs to understand is that they need to be more sensitive that abuse is not only about women, but it's also about men too. And you said something earlier that troubled me. I think you said something about church abuse. Let's move on.
we will go into that, because that's the main crux of the matter. Yeah, so Pastor has just, yes.
I think the bottom line of abuse, in whatever form it is, it's power shifting. The one who has more power in a relationship abuses his power, or his or her power, over someone that he or she has manipulated not to be able to, it's a very complicated thing, really, but it's talking about power. So even in relationships with husbands and wives or partners, a wife can be abusive. The thing is, in our society now, the burden is on the husband because he is a stronger person, and the abuse can come as physical, but the wife can certainly instigate psychological abuse as well on the husband. She might not be able to beat him or physically, but she can demoralize him or whatever, and on a daily basis, and it has to be repetitive. It has to be the culture that this person, this victim, is under. So the idea is even in church there can be abuse even by leaders of the church, because the power it's the power shift there, where the victim has no control over the situation, and then the instigator has more power and has more control of the situation and makes leads it towards his advantage.
Thank you. And I think that goes to talk more about the point that the pastor has just raised, which I raised earlier. Is there abuse in the church? We'll talk about that. We will round it up with that. So abuse could be a man could be abusive, could be the woman and the children, isn't it? What about the children? Can somebody tell us how children are abused in all forms of it? Can somebody help us? The children, they are voiceless. How could the children... Let's talk, please. We don't want only the pastors to talk. How do children experience abuse? Yes.
I think it goes back to what Joy says, power, because children are powerless. So we take advantage that when I say something to them, they can't say anything to me. When I physically abuse a child, they can't do back it to me. So it goes back to power. Come. Yeah.
Okay, so children are also on the vulnerable side. They are weak and they are forced not to say it out. Even the women and the men. And like the pastor we all said, because of the ego, the man, and like she said, it could not be physical abuse on the man. It could be psychological, denying him, maybe because we are the breadwinner, you could deny him money, you could deny him food, or even sex. All right, there's sexual abuse, right? So children to go through this. In where I come from, little children, you see a child of a month old, 3 months old being sexually abused by an adult. That is wickedness. And so the author of this year's topic lesson is telling us that we should be careful, we should be compassionate. Jesus showed compassion. Remember the story of the Good Samaritan. What happened? A man was traveling and was beaten by thieves, leaving him half dead. And a priest passed, saw him struggling with life, and he passed the other side. A Levite too, we could say these are church leaders, right? He passed and passed the other side, never had compassion on him until a Samaritan who was going that way saw him. He had compassion on him. The Bible tells us in Luke chapter 10 that he pounded him, he took him to an inn, took care of him, paid, gave the innkeeper money. Please help take care of him. If the money is not enough, when I come back, I'll take care of him. You know, the rich young ruler asked Jesus, who is my neighbor? What is the greatest commandment? That's the first one. Jesus said, what is the commandment? You know it. He said, love the Lord with all your heart, soul, and mind. Love your neighbor as yourself, right? And Jesus asked him, who is my neighbor? Jesus gave the story. And Jesus asked him, amongst the three of them, the Levite, the priest, who is the neighbor? He said the one that showed compassion on him, right? So the story is to tell us Jesus told the rich young ruler, go and do likewise. So the story, the whole theme of this lesson is to tell us, as Jesus has shown compassion to us, we should show compassion to others too. Now, my last question, because of time, is, can we mention some instances that Jesus showed compassion? Instances. Listen to my question. Can we mention some instances that Jesus showed compassion? Yes, saw your hand up.
I'm
can call the example of the woman who was caught committing adultery, and the people in the community wanted to stone her. But we see Jesus showing compassion towards her. He never judged her. And he said to the people around, whoever has not sinned must be the first person to cast the stone. So I think that's a powerful example of compassion.
All right. Thank you. Yes.
I guess all the time he showed compassion.
Okay.
Anytime. Even when he said something, it seemed harsh to us, it did show compassion. But it's well in the multitude when they had nothing to eat. The Bible said he had compassion. He looked at them, he had compassion. And he fed them. Not only the spiritual food, but the physical food.
Okay. Yes. Any other? Sorry.
Yeah, like last contributor mentioned, Christ showed compassion wherever he went to. Especially if we relate it to the topic, end it now. The woman caught in adultery was really hurting. Jesus Christ showed compassion. He did not behave like the crowd, a holier than thou set of people. He said, "Where are your accusers?" And she could not lift up her head to say, "Oh, they disappeared." They disappeared themselves because their sin found them out, so they disappeared. So he showed compassion. I think that's one big lesson for me.
Thank you.
Another instance is
Yes.
the woman at the well, John 4.
Okay.
What we notice is that this woman came to the well at a certain time in the day. And the question that you may be tempted to ask is, why did she come at that time? Because she don't want to be seen when she had about 6 husbands. And so when Christ met her, Christ did not get into some of the discussions and dialogues that persons would get into. Christ offered her, Christ recognized her need, and he met her need at the well. Taking it a little further, this woman who left that day, not wanting to interact with anyone because of the time she went to the well, she went back to our community. Why did she go back to her community? Because she met someone who was compassionate about her. He knew everything. And when I preach a sermon, I like to say, this woman probably said, "Sir, you spying on me." But Christ wasn't spying on her. He knew everything. But that did not change the way he related to her. Similarly for us, we must be compassionate to everyone. Wherever we are, compassion must be our watchword. Thank you.
Okay. Because of time. So we have mentioned some instances Jesus has shown compassion. But I also was waiting for somebody to say he has shown compassion on him or her. Has Jesus showed compassion? Is it only on that woman caught in adultery, or the people that had no food? What about those of us anybody seated here? Has Jesus shown compassion on anybody seated down here? I am one of them. So coming down here and sitting down here is a very big compassion that Jesus has shown to all of us. So Jesus has shown us compassion, and as Jesus told the rich young ruler, go and do likewise. So he's telling us to do likewise. And what about the abuse in the church, like we all mentioned? And our sister here mentioned the church leaders, because we are in authority, there are money that's supposed to be given out, you can use it. There are so many ways that church leaders, abuse the members. Can you speak more on that?
Thank you very much.
That's why you are
one of the ways that Jesus showed compassion was to those who were least in society. And one of the least were children back then. Our children now are different. But if you were a child and you were so dependent on the adults, and then, Jesus in Matthew 18, there's the greatest in the kingdom, and then up to, I'd like to read. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who then is the greatest in the kingdom?" He called a little child to him and placed the child among them. And he said, "Truly, I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever takes the lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom. And whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me." Now, this is the punchline here. If anyone causes one of these little ones, children, those who are in least power in society, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. Woe to the world because the things that cause people to stumble, such things must come, but woe to the person through whom they come. So there's a very big curse. If you're a person in authority, if you have to be mindful with the way we are in our circumstances. Are we in places of responsibility, in authority? Therefore, we have power, and because of that, we have more responsibility to be compassionate, as she has said, towards the least, to those who cannot fight back or whatever. And may the Lord, may the Holy Spirit help us to discern in wisdom the difference if we are playing whatever part we're playing.
Thank you so much. So, how do we have said earlier that some people who are abused, you find it difficult to notice them because they are always warned not to expose. Maybe your husband is abusing you and he's the pastor of the church. It's not easy to come and tell the church members that have been abused. And the pastor will tell you, when you go to church, dress well, say it's well, everything is well. How do we notice? How do we identify somebody that is being abused? Because until you notice the person that is abused, you can't help, right? So how can we identify? My time is up. How do we identify those who are abused? And so that we can come to their help.
Those of these women there don't want to do all the talking, but let me add my bit. One of the things about abuses is that we find is that it's difficult to identify abuse because, as you mentioned, sometimes persons don't want to say. But what we find with persons who are abused, sometimes, and some persons, they are withdrawn. They are isolated. You have a big crowd here, and a person who is abused sometimes may draw back from the crowd. And that is a way you can, that doesn't always say that. But these are just some of the ways that a persons may relate. Others are afraid to trust people. I remember a story, an instance I related to some time ago, where someone was having some issues in a family, and they reacted a certain way. And after doing some heavy research and investigation, it was discovered that this person was dealing with a troubling situation at home. And that is how they withdraw. They don't trust people. They find it difficult to love and understand and those things. And so we have got to be able to observe these things. And as I said, the worst type of abuse is church abuse. And sad to say, it is happening in the church, where people are trying to dictate how you operate. And if you don't go along with a certain way, you are aligned in a certain way, which is sad. Let's love people and work best for him.
All right, thank you so much. Our time is up. So it is very rare for people to make false allegation about the abuse or rape or whatever. It's rare, but so it is good for us to really identify, like Pastor said, and we all said, if you see somebody who is withdrawn, somebody, we need to pray for the Spirit of God to help us understand, discernment, to really help us understand those who are abused, because they behave all is well, but within them they are hurting and it's affecting them. And Jesus has called us to go and do what he has done, to show compassion. We should all show compassion. That is why this year, end of year program is all about End It Now. Our voices must be heard. our messages must be, our lives must be seen. We must identify them. Let us identify them first from where we are, from our homes to the church to the community. People are hurting. We should go out and end it now. And the best time to end it now, violence, abuse, all kinds of evil in our societies, at homes, in our churches, is now. And you can't end it now if Christ is not in you. And I said earlier, if you have Jesus in you and Jesus has shown you compassion, go and do likewise. May the Lord bless us in Jesus' name.
There is beauty all around. There is love at home. There is joy in every sound. There is love at home. Peace and plenty abide, smiling fair on every side. Time does softly, swiftly glide. Where there's love at home, love at home, love at home. Time does softly, swiftly glide. When there's love at home. Happy Sabbath, church. Happy Sabbath, church. I would like to welcome you all to the Sabbath school and to welcome our visitors. I see we have many visitors today. Just turn around to someone next to you and give him or her a big smile and say Happy Sabbath. I'm not seeing the smiles. Thank you so much. It was just a warm-up, and I would like to welcome all our visitors and all our special visitors. I'm sure they'll be greeted in a special way on the next segment. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So now we are going to go into our different Sabbath school classes. The adults will be on this corner, and to have 3 classes for the kids. We have the beginners and the primary at the back of the church. The youth, Brother Will, are you going out or staying inside?
So, depending on to them, if it's cold, I don't know.
The youth, they will decide. I think the sun is coming out, they can go out. Then the 10 to 15 can be on this corner. So for our visitors, we have 2 bathrooms at the back. You can use each one of those if it's empty. If it's not occupied, sorry. I think that's all for this segment for now, as we go into our different classes. And teachers, may we be strict to our time, because we have a big day. Thank you so much. Love at home.